Hi, I've taken off the driver's seat from the TR6 and I've brought it home to have a look at it and see what I can do with restoring it. Now, you all remember where the sponge was compressed, where it had stuff put on top of it, and didn't think I was going to save it. Now, looking to buy the set of these sponges is going to come to nearly 200 quid, and if I can save myself some money I will. So I'm trying to work out all sorts of different ways of getting the sponge to be back right again, including me buying sponge and shaping my own seat rest, which I've been watching countless videos on. Unfortunately they're all a bit different to what I've got, and where this is so compressed I've got nothing to go by when it comes to rebuilding, whereas a lot of these other guys on YouTube, they're sort of copying the other side of the seat or something like that. They've got something to go by. They're cutting out a bad section and putting a new section in. Anyway, I'll show you what I've done with this, and it's quite clever. I think it's clever. What I did with the actual sponge is I've taken it off the rest of the seat, and you know, I'm having trouble remembering. I think it was this side was completely compressed, completely flat and everything. Now I tried things like steaming it to make it puff up and nothing was happening. And then in the end I just decided, for no particular reason, is to submerge this whole thing into the sink with really hot water. And I was grabbing it and squeezing it and getting the water to sort of get into the deepest depths of it, and just kept it submerged in the sink for about an hour or so. And when I pulled it out, it looked like it was starting to sort of open up. Well, I've left it overnight. Well, hey presto, I've now got the shape. This is like the shape it should be, and it's actually very good. There's a little bit more down here, and I'm wondering if I soaked it again to get these few creases out here, or I mean, it's still damp as it is at the moment. I may buy some half-inch foam or quarter-inch foam, I'm not even sure, and just dress over this entirely, just to fluff it up a bit more, because I'm sure over the years some of it sort of deteriorated. But what I've got here though, regardless of anything, I've got the basis of roughly the shape that the seat should be. Got a little bit of compression down here on this corner, same as on this side as well, which would mean that this would in fact rise up a little bit higher. And so by me covering these areas completely and including that with a fresh bit of foam, should kind of give it the shape it had back when it was new. So for the sake of £25 worth of foam, I'm sort of saving myself quite a lot of money. Meanwhile, with the rest of the seat, this foam here seems to have sort of gone a bit shabby as well. I could, again, if I buy half-inch foam, I could just put a whole half-inch over this base as well, and that'll sort of lift that up. We need to change the what they call the diaphragm underneath. Managed to find them for about £15, and that will sort of make that sit up like that, nice and tight, and give it the sort of springiness that you would expect. The other thing that I found with this is these straps here have stretched and they're saggy, so there's no real support there. Again, you could go out and buy a set of these for 50 quid, 60 quid or whatever it is, but what I did instead was I bought myself a roll of this strap. I think they call it Pirelli rubber. So there's enough on here for both seats, and I think I paid about £12 for that. So all I've got to do is cut it to lengths, and here you can see it's the exact width of this one as well. I've got to get these little clips off somehow. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Well, basically what I need is these ends, so I need to get these ends off, wrap this rubber around there, and sort of secure it. I might even stitch it like that. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, and do the same for the other side, and then set them back in there so that they'll be nice and tight, which will make a nice backrest support. So what I've done is, while it was on the seat, I've pinched it like this with a pair of pliers, and I could see at what point it was tight, and just put a mark either side of the pliers, and I measured that. That's sort of 20 millimeters, so that's how much it's stretched by. So I've got to get a piece of rubber, which is, this is 25 and a half, so I've got to get it minus 20, is it 23 and a half? Yeah, 23 and a half is what I want the actual rubber to be, so plus the area which I fold back. So I'm going to have a go at one of those now. So I think how I'll do this, I will leave 20 millimeters folded back, then go 23 and a half, the rubber that's going to be exposed, and then an extra 20 millimeters again, and that's where it will get cut, along that line there. In fact, let's just cut that. So I want it to fold back there to there. Now, if I remove one of these clips, that will go in there on my mark, and just work out a way of getting that to stay. Now I might have a quick go on the sewing machine if it will do it. I'll come back to you. And there's the first one fitted. Let's say I double stitched it. The machine doesn't like rubber, so I've had to put a bit of masking tape on the underside when I was stitching, but that seems to be doing the trick. So I'm going to go through these one by one and get them to all be nice and tight like that one. Right, all done. That wasn't too bad. As I say, it's simple double stitch on all of these seems to hold them in place, and they're tight as a drum. Meanwhile, rather than go out and buy new seat covers, which I could, but I'm trying to save money when I'm doing this project, I thought I'd have a go at making my own out of leather. Now, I've got a whole bunch of leather which I've kind of accumulated, and how hard can it be to copy the shapes of all of these, transfer them all onto the leather and cut it out and sew it back together. So I'm going to have a go at that, and worst case scenario is just I've wasted a bunch of leather which I got for nothing anyway, so who cares. To begin with, I've got to take this apart carefully so that I can create a pattern. So I'll just cut along the stitches. If you can hear that, that's my wife. She has whole conversations with the dog. One day the dog's going to reply and she's going to have a shock of her life. I've clamped one side of it to the table so that I can pull it with this side and then open up the stitches. Otherwise I was trying to hold it open and cut it at the same time, but this idea just came to my head. And there we have the first piece. She's gone to take the talking dog out for a walk. So the piping is all off now, and I'm left with this shape which is a little bit stretched and a bit creasy and whatnot. So I'll put on the iron. What I want to try to do is possibly iron these bits out if it works. This is vinyl, so I don't know how it's going to react, just so that I can lay this on top of the leather for the pattern. So let's get that open up flat. Give it a little press. Just using a block on there to pull it down while I do the next bit. There we go. One nice flat pattern to begin with. Right, so I've now cut out or now unstitched all the panels for the base of the seat, and they're ready to be used as templates on top of the leather. One of the things I'm looking at here which came to my attention is the fact that you'd have thought these two bits were mirror images of each other, when in fact if I took this piece and put it on top of here, it's a different shape. It's slightly longer, there's a bit more of a curve in there. And that's now that's a bit of a dilemma to me, because I don't know what is right and what is wrong. What should I do? Should I use this for that side and then use this one for this side when I'm cutting out on the leather, or should I make a pair of these ones, which this looks in better order than this one, cut that round the leather on that side, move it over to this side, cut it round from that way, so that these two are exactly the shape. Something I'm going to have to think about. So this is the leather I'm going to use. Not the ideal colour for the car at the moment, but I have bought myself some of this stuff, which is Finalizing leather dye, alcohol based. This is the best stuff you can get for dyeing leather. It absorbs in and completely changes the colour. And in fact, I've got here's a little piece of something which I dyed earlier today, and scratch it as much as you want, you're not going to get it back to the peachy colour that this is. So it's perfect. Of course I'll put some sort of a sealer on top of that afterwards too. So I've got quite a bit of this leather, so that's why I thought I'd use this rather than going out and buying black leather. So what I'm going to do is, and I am going to use this piece, which I think is the nicer piece out of the two, because I don't like the way this one sort of arches up like that. I'm sure that shouldn't be as pronounced as that, I reckon, but maybe I'm wrong. This just looks in better condition, so I will use this one, use it like that on one piece and then like that on another piece to make a pair. Line it up onto the leather. This piece here will just about fit it on, and draw around it. Once I've got all my bits cut out, I'm going to dye them all, and I'm waiting on some foam which should be here with me, hoping tomorrow, so that I can then stitch my flutes in for the centre part of the base of the seat. These are the bits of leather which I am going to dye. So I'll cut out the there's that one, and then there's that one, and then there's this piece that goes in the back, and this large piece I'm not going to cut it to shape yet, because I've still got to stitch in the flutes into it, and it will shrink down. So I'm going to dye it black, stitch in my flutes, and then I'll trim it to the exact size of this, using this as a template. So for now I'm just going to dye all these sections of leather black, and then I can come back tomorrow when the leather's properly dried and start stitching. I'm waiting on a bit of this sponge. I've ordered some new one of this, a 10mm thick scrim, I think they call it. So I'm waiting for that to come, and hopefully that'll be tomorrow, and then I can start stitching. So for now, let's just get dyeing. Let's give this a good old shake, make sure it's all mixed up properly. I made myself a little sponge, whatever you want to call it, painting device, with just a bit of sponge and a bit of stick put together with a glue gun. I'm going to pour this into this little cap. See how this goes. Now, what I said about it absorbing straight into the leather, it really draws the dye in, so you know you've got depth. This isn't just a dye which is going to sit on top of the leather, which could be scratched off with your jeans. This is changing the colour deeply. Just put that aside. I've just had a delivery of some sponge backing, literally came this moment, but until then I had a little practice go with a scrap piece of leather and a bit of sponge backing that I had. Now this is 6mm sponge backing, the one that I've bought is 10mm, and I wanted to get the fluted effect, as you can see here. Now that involved first of all putting the leather on top of this piece of sponge, running some stitches down it. Once I've run the stitches down it, then I've folded it over at each point and run another stitch like that to give it this deep cushiony look, which is kind of designed to replicate this flat old thing. Obviously with what I'm using, this is real leather, this is vinyl, this has got like the perforations in there and whatnot, but I don't mind about that as long as I can get a nice finish. I'm hoping with the 10mm sponge it's going to be even deeper and give it even a more sort of plusher and tighter look. So I'm calculating how much leather I need to cut in order to get this effect, because this piece of leather in actual fact started off sort of this sort of a length, and then by the time I've sort of stitched it and done all the bits and pieces to it, it shrunk by about 50mm. So I've got to work out what I need to cut out of my sheet of leather. As you can see here, what I need to cut out for it, I'm not going to try and cut out the shape for now, but I need to cut enough so that when the leather shrinks, I can, once I've got it say to this stage, then I'll place this pattern over it and then cut around it this exact shape. But first of all I need to pleat the leather like this to begin with. And I'm trying to get two sections. This is the bit that you sit on, and I want to try and get out of this same piece of leather the backrest part as well. You can see where I've been dyeing this leather. I didn't finish that bit for some stupid reason, but in any case, there should be enough leather on here for me to do the seating part and the backrest part, and I think that's what I'm going to attempt now. As I said before, I've never done this before. This is the first time I'm ever trying to make anything more than a little leather wallet. And I've only bought the machine like less than a year ago, so I'm still messing around with it, but I think I could do it. I reckon I can do it if I just follow exactly what I've taken off. So hopefully by the end of this video you're going to see a leather seat, or part of a leather seat. So here's my foam, say 10mm thick. Now what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to glue the perimeter down, only the perimeter, and then I'll mark it for the pleats. Now that I've got my leather glued onto the foam, I've checked to make sure that the leather has got a perfect square corner there, and I'm going to be using this ruler as a width guide for my pleats. Draw my lines. And these are my stitching lines, like so. Next job is to get this on the sewing machine. I'm kind of a bit nervous of doing this. I mean, it's not costing me anything anyway, because I've got the leather for nothing, but it'd be an awful waste of time if I get this wrong. This is the first stage, so far so good. I made one mistake, not a massive mistake, but this sponge has got a cloth lining to it. Now that's the bit which should be on the underside, so it slides under the sewing machine nice and easily. Well, it didn't cause me too much of a problem, but nevertheless, I've just got to watch out for my mistakes. Next stage will be, is, as you see it here now, is for me to fold this back and then just sew along the seam there. Now that might be a problem because I've done glued the sponge on the wrong way, but it is what it is. So here's my seam line, and this is where I've got to go with it. I've got to take into consideration the thickness of the foam, because if I go too far close to this stitch line, I'm going to miss the leather altogether and nothing will get stitched. Here are my first pleats, nice and plump, so I'll carry on and finish this off now. There's my leather panel stitched, and here's the original one. And how about that for shrinkage? I mean, I had a lot more on there. I just about go and buy the leather and within my sort of tolerances. So all I've got to do now is put this on top of there like that, draw around it, and I've got my base. this is the front panel, and I've just stitched a bit of foam to it, and this is what will go on there like that and fold forward. So then once that bit is on there, then we've got the wings, which will sort of stitch on, go on like that somehow, and then the sort of base, or whatever you call it, the upright bit that goes around the bottom, and then that's the first of well, the first part of the seat done, if this works out. It's going well so far. That's that bit on. Now is sort of a tricky bit for me, because I've got to start putting these sort of wings on, but before that I've also got to put a bit of piping on there as well. So basically that's got to go in there and look like that somehow, which well, is what it is again. Let's see if I can do this bit. I had problems doing this. I think the amount of leather that I'm trying to stitch, you can see that, yeah, is probably too much for this lightweight machine, and I've still got to put another layer of leather over this for the wings. Struggling, the thread was breaking, and the machine isn't moving forward, and that's probably a lot to do with the fact that I used the wrong side of the foam when I stuck it to this bit. You can see here I've got the cloth on the back, and that will slide on the table here, whereas this, the foam itself, is quite rubbery, and it's giving me a massive problem. I'm going to use these little clips to hold everything in place. And that is a lot of leather, particularly in the places where I've had to sort of stitch in these flutes. It's like almost a centimetre's worth of stitching there. I don't think the machine is going to do it, and I don't know what I'll do if it doesn't, and this will all be a waste of time, which means you're not watching this, because I'm not posting this up if I failed to succeed. There'd be no point in that. So the chances are, if you're watching this, there's something not right about this. Something's not right about it, and I don't know what it is. That goes on there like that, and then that turns over like that. But why doesn't it reach the end? Go and check the pattern. Alright, so the reason that this is not going all the way up to the end there is because this bit is too long. I don't know how I made that mistake. Nevertheless, I can stitch it in and then just cut off what I don't need afterwards. So as long as I've got these edges lined up, that's all that matters. So I beg your pardon, I'm going to go for it. When you look at the layers on there, this lightweight machine is just, it's going to struggle. I don't see this happening somehow. Switching it on will help. looks like it's done it. The dye has sort of come off a little bit on that piping, but then I only dyed it about 5 minutes ago, that bit. I didn't give it a chance to dry. Kind of in with a chance. See if I can do the other one now as well. I've just finished the base. It looks really good. It looks like something that's been bought out of a shop. How it fits yet, I don't know, but I'm really pleased with the way it's turned out so far. Let me give you a little close-up view of what's going on here. Alright, so there's the front bit, there's the valance or whatever you want to call it, all fitted on nicely. Looks like it's got a nice shape, nice and symmetrical, nice and deep lines on the pleating there as well. So that should go in there somehow. When it's on the seat, it won't go on there now, but saying that, I will give it a try. Now it's got to be on the seat to give it its firmness. Yeah, that looks rubbish like that because that's not fitting in there properly yet. I think I'm going to wait until tomorrow for now and give this a try properly on the seat and see if I've done a good job or not. In which case that would mean I can continue with the top half of this seat and bring in the passenger seat and do the same. Sod it, I couldn't wait till tomorrow, so I put it on. Here it is. I haven't tightened it down and pulled it and shaped it as much as it needs to yet, but just to get an idea of how well it fits, it fits. The sponges need a little bit more padding, and I've got some extra foam to put on top of those sponges, so they'll take up the looseness there, which will be nice. This obviously will be pulled down. You've got the bit underneath there, I forgot what they call that rubber piece at the bottom, which will hold it in a bit more firm there as well. So once that's up like that and they're a bit more rounded, once I puff it out a bit with the extra padding, I'm really happy with that. And to be honest, quite surprised. I didn't think I was going to do it. Well, I did, but I'm still surprised I did it. These just arrived in the post literally 5 minutes ago, and I've been waiting for these for days. These are the diaphragms. Here's an open one. For the bottom of the seat. Basically it's a support for the sponge that you sit on, coming with a new set of clips as well, bought from a really good company called James Paddock. Searched around, I paid £15 each for these. I think everywhere else was like 20 quid, so it's a £5 saving here and there, but it seems to be that this website a bit cheaper than most other places. So I can now get on and fit these to the seat and finish off a seat in its entirety. Here's the old one that I'm taking off. You can see it's completely deteriorated over the last 50 years. So once a new one is on, it's nice and taut, and then the sponge goes on top of that. The seat should look good. they're starting to get a bit tight now as the skin is tightening up, and I thought I'm going to try and see if I can use this as a puller. Yep, that worked. There you go, nice and tight. All ready for this to go on there and complete my seat. Well, I've done it. I succeeded. I've stitched together my first ever leather car seat, and it ain't half bad. I give myself a 9 out of 10 on this, and I'm sure like there will be real upholsterers out there who'll tell me no, you get like a 2 out of 10 for that, but 9 out of 10 for me, for my score. Let me give you a little bit of a closer view on this. I've managed to pad it out really well, filled up the worn out leather with the extra foam, and now it sort of sits nice and plump as it should do. Obviously I haven't got the original tight vinyl with the basket weave holes in it or whatnot, but who cares, my car. I've left the original back, I didn't bother recovering that, it's behind, who's going to see that. Polished up the little handle down here. And there we have it. That's one seat down, one to go. I've already made up the other panels, as you can see here. So, saved myself a bit of time by doing this in advance. All just ready to go on. So when I fetch the passenger seat home, I'll be able to just simply just fit them on, and that's a pair of seats done. And then I'll look at doing the door panels as well. So that's it from me for now. Hope you enjoyed watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe and press that little bell icon down below, which will alert you when I next upload another video. Until then, goodbye.